Alright guys, before we do get into today's video, I do just first want to say this. If you already follow clean eating and you like it and you enjoy it, that is completely fine. But just because you enjoy something doesn't then mean it's the best thing for someone else or the best approach either. Because what I've learned over the years is that there isn't one specific best way that you can diet down and drop body fat. And it's the reason why we do have so many different options when it does come to dieting down, different methods, and even when it does come to training with exercise selection. The reason that we have so much variety is because we all have different preferences and things that we enjoy and things that we hate for whatever reason. But it's about finding what you do enjoy and what you can follow consistently, because that is overall just going to lead to better adherence and make the process more enjoyable. Now, I'm not saying that clean eating doesn't work, because it definitely does, but this video is just going to be for the people who think that clean eating is the only approach when it does come to fat loss. And that is why in this video I'm going to be breaking down 5 scientifically backed reasons why clean eating isn't the best approach for fat loss. Now, don't get me wrong, we should still be looking to always prioritize a well-balanced diet that consists of lean meats, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, all of the good stuff that should be part of our daily diet and staple foods. But fat loss doesn't require 100% clean eating all of the time in order for you to get shredded. And this is something that I genuinely used to believe myself when I was dieting, trying to lose body fat and get shredded. I used to think that if I ate something that wasn't a clean food, that I just completely messed up my diet at that point, and I would go on a full binge, eating hundreds if not thousands of calories at that point. But this is when that was a younger me, less experienced and believing what everyone said back in the day of fitness YouTube. But even in recent years, a 2020 study that was published in Nutrients found that clean eating was still one of the most commonly adopted approaches to dieting and dropping body fat. And this brings me on to the first issue with clean eating, and that is that it doesn't actually have one clear definition, and it's actually quite subjective depending on the person that you're talking to about clean eating. If we was to ask a random bro bodybuilder what a clean eating diet would consist of, then we would get the following foods: oats, chicken, rice, potatoes, protein powder, all of the things that should be part of your daily diet, because again, they are great foods. But that's when we're hit with the first contradiction, and that is protein powder, because a clean eating diet is supposed to consist of whole, unprocessed foods, but protein powder is actually a processed food. Now, I definitely agree with the recommendation that most bodybuilders to actually consume protein powder, because it is a great way to help people hit their daily protein goal, because a lot of people in Gen Pop don't eat enough protein. So it is definitely a great recommendation. But again, when it comes to clean eating, it's not a clean food, it's a processed food. Even oats are actually slightly processed to a degree to help speed up cooking times and to get that flaky consistency that we're used to. So the definition of what is actually considered to be a clean eating diet to that of having processed foods is already starting to fall apart, and we are just cracking the surface with this. And then we come into the argument of white carbs versus brown carbs. And for decades, white carbs were demonized. Foods like white bread, white potato, white rice were all considered foods that you should not include in your diet if your goal was to shred body fat and to get leaner, as they were seen as unhealthy sources of carbohydrates. But that just wasn't the truth then, and it still isn't the truth now. Because I remember very clearly watching fitness YouTubers back in the day that were pushing this agenda that in order to shred body fat, if you wanted to get abs, then you did need to cut out the white potatoes, the white rice, the white bread, and instead you had to replace it with brown bread, brown rice, and sweet potatoes. But the only difference between white bread and brown bread is that brown bread is actually made from whole grains, so it contains a higher amount of fiber, whereas white bread is bleached and slightly higher up on the GI index. But when it does come to calories in versus calories out, per calorie, white bread versus brown bread is pretty much the same. So when it does come to your goals of fat loss, it is not going to make that much of a difference where you do need to completely eliminate it, and it's the reason why you aren't losing body fat. Now, because of this trend that everyone was piggybacking on back in the day of white bread being much worse than brown bread, everyone then just started to generalize carbohydrate sources, so anything that was white and then had a brown counterpart was then just thrown into the pool as well. So we then had white rice versus brown rice. Now again, white rice is bleached for faster cooking times and longer shelf life. Brown rice, on the other hand, only has slightly less fewer fewer calories than what white rice does, and no real actual benefit to it. So again, when it does come to fat loss, sure, you're going to save on a few extra calories, but nothing detrimental to it. Again, you need to completely cut white rice out of your diet, and it's the reason why you aren't losing weight. But then we had the argument between white potato versus sweet potato. And again, I think everyone just made this assumption that because we had white potato and then we had sweet potato, that white was somehow worse than sweet potato, but white potatoes and sweet potatoes are both pulled from the earth. The only difference is that white potatoes, again, are just seen as a worse version of carbohydrates because of white rice and white bread. When in reality, white potatoes are actually one of the best foods that you can eat when you are looking to drop body fat and you're in a dieting phase, because white potatoes are one of the most satiating foods that you can eat per calorie. So what does count as a clean food is completely inconsistent and subjective depending on the person who you are talking to, which overall sets a terrible foundation when it does come to actually getting started with fat loss, dieting and nutrition. This then brings me on to the second problem when it does come to following a 100% clean eating diet, and that is that it is way too inconvenient for most people. Because unless you are a competitive bodybuilder, odds are that your life probably doesn't revolve around going to the gym and training, meal prepping and having strict rules in place to follow and hit your macros and calories for the day. And this is where I think a lot of coaching is going wrong when it does come to coaching Gen Pop clients, because more often than not, bodybuilders will coach their Gen Pop clients like they are bodybuilders. But they aren't. They're just wanting to go to the gym to either drop some body fat, build some muscle, maybe gain some strength, to be fitter and to be healthier, and to probably not feel as shit as what they do right now. They want to feel more confident. So to them, the gym is something that they do in their life to help actually overall improve the quality of their life. That is a very different scenario compared to that of an aspiring bodybuilder. And that's where a lot of coaches approach it wrong to begin with, because they expect the people that are just going to the gym to overall just slightly better themselves to focus on nothing but their fitness journey, and that they should forget everything that isn't involved in the gym, and if it is, it's a complete distraction. So now you are literally forced to choose between your social life or your diet, which is just completely unnecessary, because fat loss is driven by energy balance, not food purity or how clean the food is that you're eating and where your calories are coming from. As long as you are in a calorie deficit and you are hitting your protein goal consistently every day, then you are going to drop body fat and you will lose weight. And the research towards following more of a flexible approach to dieting actually supports this, because it found that flexible dieting led to better diet adherence, longer term results, and less binge eating. And here's what you need to realize and understand as well. The bodybuilders that are actually telling you that you need to eat 100% clean all of the time in order to get results aren't even doing it themselves. Sure, when they're in prep, getting ready for an upcoming bodybuilding competition, they will probably prioritize clean foods simply because their calories are getting lower and lower, so it makes more sense to make better food choices, as they again can get more calories from cleaner foods as opposed to slightly less cleaner foods. So again, clean eating is very dependent on the person that you are talking to, what they're doing right now and the goals that they are working towards. It's not something that they are actively following religiously throughout the year like what they're telling you to do, and again, it just doesn't have one clear definition. Now, the third issue with clean eating is that it's also extremely hard and difficult to maintain in the long term, because what you need to realize and understand is that what you do to get results, you need to keep on then doing in order to maintain those results. If you don't, then it probably makes sense that the results are going to actually start reversing. Now, researchers actually compared flexible dieting to that of rigid dieting, and what they found was this: rigid dieting was associated with higher dropout rates, increased cravings and lower longer term success. Then when compared against flexible dieting, what they actually found was the participants overall had better diet adherence, less psychological stress, and way more consistent to the process itself. And from personal experience, again, the more foods that you restrict, the more you do crave them. And that's why for me personally, more of a flexible approach to my calories, what food choices I'm eating on a day-to-day basis, is more sustainable to me. So flexible dieting doesn't mean that you just take the piss with your food choices and that you can eat whatever you want, because that isn't the case. We still want to focus on health at the end of the day and making healthy choices when it does come to our food. But what I don't like is this idea of elimination, restriction, and that you have to completely cut out foods in order for you to achieve your goals, because it just isn't the case. And a lot of coaches will probably coach you for 3 months strict to where you cut out and you eliminate a lot of food choices, but can you do that forever? And would you want to do that forever? Whereas instead, you could learn to actually focus on a well-balanced diet, but leave 10 to 20% of your calories each and every day to accommodate for the foods that you still do want and still do enjoy. It all comes back to diet adherence. Because if you cannot adhere to the diet in the short term or long term, then your chances of getting results are going to be extremely slim. And again, this is my problem when coaches are telling their clients that they need to follow a 100% clean eating diet. Sure, it will work because you're in a calorie deficit, but it doesn't teach you anything. It doesn't teach you how to find balance. It doesn't teach you how to make better food choices. And it doesn't really teach you delayed gratification to where you might be saving your calories for something later in the day. It's just a pure elimination tactic. And that right there isn't going to teach you shit. And the next problem that I have with clean eating is that how it can create lasting damage and actually start to create eating disorders in certain individuals. Because clean eating implies that you have two main camps when it does come to your food choices. You have good food and then you have bad food. Because this is where things can start to go really bad really fast. Because looking at foods in this black and white mindset of good or bad can actually lead to something called orthorexia, which is known for where an individual can only eat foods that are clean and pure. And it can also lead to other eating disorders like purging or bulimia. And you don't want to develop anything like that, any bad relationships with your food, because once you do, it is extremely hard to break those habits and to change the behaviors that you then set. So you are just way better off never allowing yourself to be in that situation to create them in the first place. Because again, if your goal is to just drop body fat, to look better, to feel better, to just have a better quality of life than what you might have right now, then it's something that you just don't have to do. Understand that there is no good or bad food. There is only food. And it's actually how much you eat of a particular food that makes it good or bad. And that's a great place to start with. Because one banana is a fantastic food choice day to day. But if you was to eat 100 bananas in a day, then we've gone from a good food choice to something that's probably not going to be great for you. Now, junk food and naughty food, often referred to as UPFs, ultra processed foods, are only ever going to be a problem if they make up the majority of your daily diet, and it's where the majority of your consumption of calories comes from on a day-to-day basis. And again, this is why a well-balanced diet is key to where, again, we want to prioritize 80-90% of our calories coming from good, healthy food choices. Because if we only have a small part of our calories coming from UPFs, but the large majority of our calories and our food choices day to day are again focused on a well-balanced diet, whole grains, lean proteins, fruits, vegetable, fibrous foods, then you will be just fine. And this brings me on to the final problem of clean eating, and that is that it can be very unhealthy. And again, you need to remember that it is the dosage that makes both the poison and the antidote. Because even something as simple as water can kill you if you consume too much of it. The same thing can be said with ice cream or cookies. What matters most is how much you are consuming day to day and what your diet looks like at the end of the day. So what should you do? Well, I'd say that the average person is consuming more junk food than what they should do on a day-to-day basis. So I'd look to remove some of that junk food and instead replace it with healthier food choices and food options. More things like fruits, vegetables, all of the things that I've said time and time again throughout this video. But don't have this belief that you need to cut out certain foods or entire food groups for you to actually get results if your goals right now are fat loss. Because there is no single food on the planet that causes fat gain. In the same way, there is no known food we know of that causes fat loss. It comes down to calories in versus calories out. It's energy balance. Now, fat loss itself comes down to being in a calorie deficit consistently and hitting your protein target every day as well. Fat loss really is that simple. Sorry about that, guys. Microphone died, and this is now the second time I'm filming this video because when I filmed it the other day for the first time, I filmed the whole entire thing and the autofocus was completely out of shot. So it is what it is. Let's try again. So like I was saying, fat loss really is that simple. People will try to overcomplicate it when they have got something to sell to you, but I promise you, it really is that simple. Now, any diet will work so long as you are in a calorie deficit, but the best diet you can follow is the one that you can adhere to consistently. So you need to learn what you like, what you don't like, and what you can ultimately be consistent with. But regardless of diet, fat loss is determined by calories in versus calories out. And the easiest way to make sure that you are actually in a calorie deficit so that fat loss can occur is by tracking your calories consistently. Now, you can either track your calories in protein, protein or your full macros that of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. And if you do want some naughty foods, some UPFs, all you simply need to do is track your calories and make sure those foods work within your daily diet. Again, making sure first that the majority of your calories are coming from healthier food choices. Then you can accommodate 10 to 20% of your calories to UPFs. Again, tracking your calories is just going to make you aware as to how many calories you are eating on a day-to-day basis, because a lot of people really don't understand how many calories are in certain amounts of food. You don't necessarily need to be tracking your calories to lose fat, but again, it's going to add another level of accountability that you probably don't have right now. And if you guys do need help figuring all of this out, how to set up your goals, how to actively work towards your fat loss goals, what calories you need to be eating on a day-to-day basis to actually lose body fat, and how to actually start making progress in the gym, you can get access to my 4 weeks of free coaching program. No BS, you'll get access to 4 weeks of coaching completely for free, to where you can pick from a variety of different evidence-based training programs to use in the gym. If you want to get started with that, then the link is in the description. You just need to put in a few basic details and then you'll get instant access to it. And with that, guys, I'm going to leave the video here. If you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like, and if you want to learn how to actually get shredded, then you need to be checking out this video right here.